Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Emily Sue.
And I'm Joyce Woo. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Activists allege political persecution after being charged over rowdy protest.
Transport chief defends decision not to build Chunwan to Tunmun Railway, saying it's not cost-effective.
Teachers' union warns they may issue strike call as political discontent increases. Activists opposed to the redevelopment of Northeast New Territory say more than 10 of them have been charged in connection with an unruly protest outside Lechko in June.
They accused the government of using what they called scare tactics ahead of a series of civil disobedience campaigns.
Those charged, including a 15-year-old, will appear in court next week. We do not fear political persecution, chanted activists on arrival at Central Police Station this afternoon. They marched there after learning that some of them had been charged with various offenses in connection with a rowdy protest outside Lechko earlier this year. The charges include illegal assembly, obstructing Lechko officers from carrying out their duties, and forcibly entering the complex. These stem from the storming of Lechko in June by hundreds of people opposed to plans to build two new towns in Kutung North and Fanling North in the new territories. Many used metal rods and bamboo sticks in a bid to pry open heavily guarded doors. And during the unrest, the outer walls of the building were damaged. Police officers used pepper spray in a bid to break up the protest, the most violent in Hong Kong in recent years. The convener of Voice for Land Justice, one of the groups behind the demonstration, described the arrests as political persecution and white terror, a term often used to allege political suppression.
As we all know that there is a student strike and the Occupy Central is coming soon. So if the police and government choose this critical moment to arrest and charge us, this is a very, we know that they have a mission behind their mind.
Ho said 23 protesters who took part in the rally outside Lechko received calls from the police over the past 2 days to help in their investigation, and some of them, including one aged 15, have been charged. They will appear at Eastern Magistracy next Thursday. The transport chief has defended the decision not to build a coastal railway line between Chunwan and Tunmun, saying it won't be cost-effective.
Anthony Cheung also denied claims that there were political considerations in the government's railway plan. ATV's Winnie Wong reports.
Transport Minister Anthony Cheung has been doing a lot of explaining after the government unveiled plans to build 7 new railway lines or extensions. The projects costing $110 billion would be constructed between 2018 and 2026. Some say the government is overstretching itself at a time when the MTRC is facing delays in its 5 current projects. Others are asking why some areas are not being served. On a radio show this morning, Cheung said he understood the disappointment of New Territories residents after the government decided to scrap a plan for a coastal line between Chunwan and Tunmun. He said the project won't be cost-effective because the population in those 2 districts is projected to rise by about 10% by 2021 and then stop growing. Cheung said networks need to coincide with Hong Kong's development over the next 2 decades.
First, of course, we need to respond to increasing traffic demands in various areas. Secondly, we would like to facilitate some major development, particularly housing development and industrial or commercial development. And thirdly, we would like to enhance the convenience of traveling on the railway network.
Cheung hopes to build a more intricate web of railways, so if anything happens in one part, commuters can fall back on alternative routes. He also insisted that the decision to build an East Kowloon line was not in favor of certain political groups, but because the district will see many new developments in the future. But critics allege that the DAB has been pushing for the project, which will connect Diamond Hill Station on the Kwun Tong line and Po Lam Station on the Cheung Kwan O line. Winnie Wong, ATV News.
Political experts say Hong Kong's first chief executive, Tung Chee-hwa, is adopting a more high-profile role to try and heal the rift in society triggered by China's restrictive framework for political reform.
Tung has proposed setting up a think tank, an idea endorsed by his former finance chief, Anthony Leung. Former Chief Executive Tung Chee-hwa set the rumor mill spinning after unveiling his plan to set up a think tank to promote the long-term development of Hong Kong. The proposal by the city's first post-handover leader has been endorsed by many, including Anthony Leung, who served as Tung's finance minister.
I would support him and anybody that would contribute to the stability and prosperity of Hong Kong.
Leung added that he wouldn't hesitate if Tung invites him to join the think tank. Tung is a veteran leader as well as my elder. How can I say no to him, said Leung. But the former finance czar reiterated that he has no plans to run for chief executive in 2017. Tung was tight-lipped about political affairs since resigning because of health problems in 2005. But he returned to the spotlight earlier this month to endorse Beijing's ultra-conservative framework on constitutional reform. The National People's Congress Standing Committee decided that there will be a maximum of 3 candidates for chief executive, and they must be patriots who secure majority support in the 1,200-strong nominating committee. All opposition lawmakers have vowed to veto the government's reform package, set up under such conditions which virtually rule out pan-democratic candidates. Chinese University political scientist Ivan Choi believes Tung's recent high-profile remarks are driven by the city's current situation and division in society.
He wants to play a more and more prominent role in Hong Kong politics and try to change his low profile in the past 10 years. That is the only one thing that we can make sure at this moment.
Choi refused to speculate whether Beijing instructed Tung, a vice chairman of China's top political advisory body, to set up the think tank. But Choi said the members could be made up of powerful figures to help bolster Beijing's position in discussions on political reform.
Student leaders from the city's top 2 universities are hoping that as many as 8,000 students will take part in a week-long class boycott starting on Monday.
And teachers have hinted that they might also walk out amid growing discontent over Beijing's tough stance on political reform. Student leaders from the city's 2 biggest universities took to the airwaves this morning to drum up support for their week-long strike that kicks off on Monday. They were accompanied by Professional Teachers Union Director Zheng Yuefei, who warned that teachers might go on strike too in the future to oppose Beijing's highly restrictive framework on political reform for Hong Kong. There is growing sentiment in the academic sector against Beijing's decision, said Zheng. If we think this social issue has escalated to a very severe level, we may encourage teachers to boycott classes as well. Just 2 days before students walk out of class, the president of the Chinese University Students' Union, Tommy Zheng, said he hopes that as many as 8,000 of his peers will join the boycott. That equals the number of students who skipped class during the anti-national education campaign in 2012. Already 2,000 Chinese university students have vowed to strike, along with thousands more from the 23 other universities and tertiary institutions. Zheng said he's optimistic about the turnout. Yvonne Leung, who heads Hong Kong University Students' Union, said participants may escalate their action by occupying Chater Road overnight or staging protests to target specific officials. Some secondary school students are also answering a call by activist group Scholarism to skip class for a day next Friday. The Council on Smoking and Health has continued to push its case for a higher tobacco tax to force many smokers to quit.
But a health expert says smokers should be offered cash to encourage them to stop. Winner Wong reports.
A public health expert has come up with a novel recommendation: pay smokers to stub out the habit. During a radio show this morning, public health expert Lam Tai-hing of Hong Kong University argued that monetary incentives can spur many to give up the habit. He suggested that smokers who quit for 1 month should get $1,000, rising to $2,000 for 3 months and $10,000 if a person can stay away from cigarettes for an entire year. People who reach the 1-year mark rarely ever relapse, Lam said. He said family members should be rewarded too if they help smokers give up. Lam suggested that a woman be given $5,000 if she helps her husband to stop smoking for 12 months. That way the family will be $15,000 richer at the end of 1 year. Skeptics argued that the system can be abused, but Lam said cheats can easily be found by blood, hair, or nail tests. Participants could also sign a pledge not to take a puff now and then. But on the same radio show, an anti-smoking group continued to push for the traditional approach, higher tobacco tax. The chairwoman of the Council on Smoking and Health, Lisa Lau, justified her group's recent suggestion that the tax should surge by 57%. If cigarettes become expensive, smokers will think twice, she said. Lau says there had been no tobacco tax increase for 8 years in a row until 2007, and in the past 3 years, the increase totaled only 25%. As a result, smokers still find cigarettes affordable, said the head of the anti-smoking group. If the tax jumps by 57%, a packet of cigarettes would cost around $77, compared with $55 now. Winna Wong, ATV News.
The leader of the Scottish National Party that led the failed bid to leave the United Kingdom has announced his resignation.
Alex Salmond also accused the British government of already failing to deliver its promise of new powers to Scotland for staying in the Union. ATV's Bennett Work reports.
Scottish nationalists and unionists took their battle from the ballot box to the streets of Glasgow after Thursday's referendum result showed most people want to stay in the United Kingdom. Police on horses tried to separate the two groups after a large crowd of unionists gathered in St George's Square and began goading independence supporters. Following the defeat, the leader of the independence movement, Scottish National Party head Alex Salmond, announced his resignation. In a parting shot, he accused British Prime Minister David Cameron of already going back on his word regarding new powers promised to Scotland in return for rejecting independence.
I spoke to the Prime Minister today, and although he reiterated his intention to proceed as he has now outlined, he would not commit to a second reading vote by the 27th of March on a new Scotland bill. The Prime Minister says such a vote would be meaningless. I suspect he can't guarantee the support of his party. And as we have already seen in the last hour, the common front between Labour and Tory and Labour, is starting to break.
Salmond insisted the fight for independence will continue. There were mixed reactions to his resignation.
As somebody who supported Yes, I think he's been brilliant. And I can see why he might want to go, but I think he's been really inspiring.
I know a lot of people that voted Yes that weren't very keen on the guy in the first place, but the vote wasn't for him.
Pro-independence groups now fear London will go through with policy changes that will seriously affect their quality of life, from housing to healthcare and civil liberties. Meanwhile, even though the Scots voted no, pro-independence movements worldwide will be spurred on.
You have to see the very act of holding the referendum as the earthquake that will have aftershocks in different parts of Europe, and quite frankly, as far afield as Taiwan and other areas that, for some who seek self-determination. It's a rejection of globalization in some ways, and big supranational structures, whether those are large multinational corporations or large superstructures, in some way like the European Union.
The ripple effect is already being felt in Spain, where Catalonia's parliament has defied Madrid and decided to hold a vote on independence, and in Pakistan, where Kashmiris are demanding India deliver its promise to allow a similar vote in the disputed Himalayan region. The Scottish vote was also closely watched in Northern Ireland, where politicians have warned that Scottish nationalists pose a greater threat to the UK than the IRA, and that the entire union is hanging by a thread. As with Scotland, Northern Ireland will also experience some form of political shake-up when or if it is granted new powers promised by Cameron. Ben O'Rourke, ATV News.
And still to come on ATV's main news tonight. Alibaba shares surge on New York trading debut, making founder Jack Ma China's richest man.
Pomp and ceremony in South Korea as Asian Games begin.